good thing about the internet is everything is connected. The bad thing about the internet is everything is connected. The internet has become a very, very fundamental infrastructure for virtually everything. All of our daily lives are touched. Even if we're not using it directly as users, we're still affected by others who are using it for their daily work. So we have to train people to understand what the risks are and how to defend themselves against those risks. There is a very tricky balance here to figuring out how to make the internet configured to serve us all well, while at the same time not being abused by either individuals or by governments. The Internet Governance Forum is multi-stakeholder and global in scope. It hopes to inform legislators and others about policies that would make the internet operate well, securely, safely, fairly, affordably, and reliably. The Internet Governance Forum is an open organization. Anyone is permitted to participate. We want those who are making the rules to be informed by the parties who will be affected. So we all have a mission, which is to make the internet a place that's worthy of its intent.
That was a very short but very much powerful message we got early morning. Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you joining from across the South Asia Pacific and beyond. Very welcome to APrIGF 2025. For the record, it's me, Dr. Bhoj Ghimire, a data scientist by profession and a professor of ICT. I'm a co-convenor of the PC APrIGF 2025. I'm absolutely delighted to see this diverse and vibrant community come together once again, even if it's through our screens. This year's forum was originally planned to take place in beautiful city of Kathmandu. Though we could not gather in person, yet the spirit of Kathmandu is still with us, warm, welcoming, and full of energy. Our theme this year, the future of multi-stakeholder digital governance in Asia Pacific. It couldn't be more timely. The internet today connects billions of lives, but it also raises big concerns about trust, inclusion, and sustainability. Over the next 3 days, we'll dive into 5 powerful sub-themes that shape this future. They are security and trust, resilience, innovation and emerging technologies, sustainability, access, and inclusion. What makes APrIGF so special is you, the people behind the dialogue. Whether you represent government, business, civil society, academia, or the tech community, your voice, your ideas, your experiences are what makes this space meaningful and powerful. So let's make this virtual room come alive, ask questions, share perspectives, connect in chat. Well, once again, welcome to APrIGF 2025. Let's make this an unforgettable and inspiring experience for the days to come. Thank you once again, and let's get started. So to start with the session, I'd like to call upon Amrita Choudhury, Chair of Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group, Emcee of APrIGF, for the welcome remarks. Amrita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Bhoj, and namaste everyone. And welcome to all the distinguished guests, fellows, youth leaders, ladies and gentlemen, to APrIGF 2025. As Bhoj mentioned, we would have loved to meet you in person, but due to situations, we are now meeting in the online world. On behalf of the APrIGF Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group, which we also call as MSG, I warmly welcome you to this event. Thank you to our Nepalese host who had put in so much of effort for a physical event. The MSG, especially the various committees and the Secretariat who have worked tirelessly behind the scene for the last few months to make this event happen. A big thank you to all our sponsors for your support to promote this open and multi-stakeholder bottom-up platform in APAC region. I want to especially welcome the fellows and the future young leaders joining in online from different parts of our very diverse APAC region. We look forward to your engagement and we will be happy to help you in this journey. I hope in the next 3 days, you will be actively participating in the diverse discussions to deliberate on the future of multi-stakeholder digital governance in Asia Pacific, which is the overarching theme this year. Ask a lot of questions, share your perspectives to shape the internet governance discussions in our region. And do not feel shy, this community is very welcoming. Additionally, as many of you know, this year is very important since the 20-year review of the implementation of the World Summit on Information Society, also known as WSIS Plus 20, is taking place. Issues such as bridging digital divide, social and economic development, environmental impacts, AI, data governance, human rights and ethics, capacity building, and more importantly, the renewal of the IGF, among other topics, are being discussed. As member states will decide and shape the future of digital policies in December, your voices and voices of all the other non-governmental stakeholders have become all the more important. We have to share our views and perspectives and strengthen the multi-stakeholder model and ensure all stakeholders have a voice so that we can shape our digital future the way we want. Do contribute in the town hall and the synthesis document and help in shaping the key takeaways from this event. While doing so, please be respectful, courteous, and have some empathy and patience for others. We hope to see you engaged in the internet ecosystem in your countries, the Asia Pacific, and global. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Amrita, for really nice welcome note. And move ahead. So next, I would like to call upon Edmon Chung for the opening remarks, the APrIGF Secretariat. Edmon, over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for tuning in to APrIGF 2025. At .Asia, we continue to be very proud to have your trust to serve as the Secretariat for the APrIGF. And I would really like to start by thanking my team in working extra hard to turn things around in short order, adjusting schedules and resources to make this fully online, especially Ronnie and Christine. And also this year, we brought back Christine, whom some of you would know, who led our efforts a few years ago in similar circumstances, though that wasn't the reason we brought Christine back. But please join me in a virtual round of applause to them with your emojis. And actually, the entire .Asia team is working hard behind the scenes trying to make sure that everything runs smoothly. We even had a dry run for tackling Zoom bombers last week. But as we remain vigilant, we ask for your patience because at the same time, we want to keep the forum as open and accessible as possible to support participation. I must also take this opportunity to thank our international sponsors whose unwavered support really throughout the years and through these changes have been instrumental in the stability and resilience of the APrIGF work. Internet Society and the ISOC Foundation, APNIC and the APNIC Foundation, the IGF Secretariat, and also those in the ICANN community. And of course, we must extend our gratitude to our gracious hosts and co-hosts, the Internet Governance Institute of Nepal, ISOC Nepal, UNESCO, AMARC, and the Nepal Internet Exchange, who have been again affected by events beyond our control and expectation, although we are yet to be able to confirm. But I really hope that we could be there in Kathmandu in person next year. The reason we are all online is, of course, the result of the difficulties on the ground in Kathmandu. But as much as I'm inspired by the turn of events, I am also reflecting on the power for good and for bad that the internet unleashes, as Vint just mentioned. For a good few years, we've heard that the targeted misinformation swings votes, manipulates public opinion, and threatens our democratic values. But here in Nepal this year, we are reminded that the internet also enables democratic transformations. And we are reminded that national security or national digital sovereignty initiatives which is an increasingly hot topic with AI and data governance becoming an important part of internet governance, we need to be reminded that national digital sovereignty must begin with the safeguard of personal digital sovereignty and personal freedom online. The digital mobility for us to choose where we want to go online. Appropriating Martin Luther King Jr., who once said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In today's internet world, we need to understand and be reminded that threat to the open internet anywhere is a threat to the internet we love everywhere. And this year, as we mark the 16th installment of the APrIGF, another important milestone is on the horizon, of course, which Amrita mentioned, and it's WSIS Plus 20. The first WSIS Plus 20, which was 20 years ago, of course, set the course for the global IGF movement, of which APrIGF is part of. And observing from the zero draft of the WSIS Plus 20, we applaud the affirmation of the multi-stakeholder model for the global internet governance ecosystem, but we're also especially excited to see the IGF receive potentially a permanent mandate. And when this is put in place, it will also signal APrIGF to be a permanent annual event for the Asia-Pacific Internet Governance community to convene. Allow me to make a commitment to this community that .Asia is equally resolved to continue our support for the APrIGF as a beacon in preserving and advancing the bottom-up, consensus-based, multi-stakeholder model. Wish you all a fruitful APrIGF 2025, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your very powerful message. Injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. Thanks, Edmon. So we have a keynote speech by Shirley, President and CEO of Internet Society. I think it's a pre-recorded message. Rani, I would like to request you to play the message.
Good morning. I'm Sally Wentworth, President and CEO of the Internet Society and the Internet Society Foundation, and it is my honor to speak with you at this Asia-Pacific Internet Governance Forum. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts that have brought us here today. This APrIGF was planned to be held in person in Nepal, and while circumstances required us to shift our virtual format, I want to commend our hosts, particularly the Internet Society Nepal chapter, also known as Open Internet Nepal, and the Internet Governance Institute for their dedication and hard work in making this gathering possible. Your perseverance in the face of logistical challenges demonstrates the commitment of this region to ensuring that the Asia-Pacific region has a strong voice in shaping the Internet's future. Let me start with a story that captures why we do this work. About a year ago, 4 of our grantee partners in Indonesia and Bangladesh came together to share ideas and strategies from their work, training women and entrepreneurs to use the internet for their small businesses. They invited us to join them in Jakarta for the day and to meet with some of the women who had taken the courses. Our team at the Internet Society got to hear about the courses themselves, which covered practical skills like how to avoid online scams and how to market and sell products online. One after the other, the women shared how the course had fundamentally changed their lives, how they were able to grow their businesses, even create jobs in their communities, and to go on to share the skills they'd learned with their friends and family. But one quote in particular from a woman living in a rural community stayed with me. As a woman with disabilities, she said, it is really hard to find jobs, especially at our age. She said that thanks to the skills training she received, she is now financially independent and able to support her family. This is an experience we hear about time and time again from all corners of the world. And it's a reminder that the internet, at its best, breaks down barriers, but only when the people have the skills to use it safely. The Asia-Pacific region is showing the world how that can be done. Today, the Asia-Pacific region is home to more than half the world's population. Your innovations, your challenges, and your solutions should be central to every global conversation about the internet's future. Yet all too often, voices from this region are underrepresented in global internet governance discussions. This is why platforms like the APrIGF are so vital. You provide a space for stakeholders across this diverse region, from governments to businesses, from civil society to the technical community, from rural communities to major cities. All of us can come together and discuss the internet issues that matter most. It is a place to build regional consensus on the actions that need to be taken and to work together to build a more open, safe, and secure internet for everyone across this region. And this year, your voice, the voice of the Asia-Pacific region, matters more than ever. We are in the midst of the UN's WSIS Plus 20 review, a pivotal moment where the global community is evaluating our progress and charting the course for the next decade of our digital society. The decisions being made this year will shape the future of internet governance and will even determine whether the Internet Governance Forum continues to exist at all. While the most recent Zero Draft document was a good starting point for the negotiations, it is critical that the internet community continue to advocate for the multi-stakeholder model and boost efforts that will remove inequalities within countries and across regions. In the WSIS Plus 20 review, it is also important that member states formally recognize that the tremendous growth in global internet connectivity and digital transformation has been enabled by three factors. First, open standards. The more than 75,000 globally distributed, interconnected, independent networks that make up the modern internet all rely on the open standards developed by the Internet Engineering Task Force and other related internet standards bodies. Second, major advancements in internet security technologies and applications. Wide-scale deployment of end-to-end encryption technologies and other critical internet security standards are the foundation of the global digital economy. And finally, we all depend on the excellent stewardship of essential internet resources such as IP addresses, domain names, and the domain name system by the internet technical community. All of this was achieved through multi-stakeholder mechanisms and collaboration across borders and disciplines. This global cooperation between many stakeholders in many countries from many cultures is more essential than ever if we hope to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The voice of the Asia-Pacific region needs to be heard more strongly than ever in this global conversation. Let me share some data about the internet in your region, both the challenges and the opportunities. According to the Internet Society's Pulse measurement platform, the Asia-Pacific region has an Internet Resilience Index score of 46 out of 100, which places it on par with the Americas. This index measures infrastructure, market readiness, performance, and security. This score tells us that while there's been a lot of progress in this region, there's still a lot of work to be done to strengthen the internet across this region. But of course, the story is complex. On the one hand, the Asia-Pacific region unfortunately leads the world in internet shutdowns. Governments across this region continue to restrict or block access to the internet or to services that use it, whether during protests, elections, or a range of other reasons. On the other hand, this region is rapidly adopting critical internet technologies. Encrypted web deployment is over 70%, meaning people's privacy and security online is being more and more protected. Asia has the second highest rate of IPv6 adoption, ensuring that the internet can continue to grow and evolve. These data points reflect the technical sophistication and forward-thinking approach of the Asia-Pacific internet community. This contrast between restriction and innovation, between shutdowns and advancement, captures the tension we must address in conversations about the future of multi-stakeholder internet governance in Asia Pacific. I ask each of you to think about how we best move forward through this tension. This tension was clear in the recent events in Nepal, where social media sites were required to be blocked until their companies registered with the government. The events remind us of three fundamental truths about the internet that we cannot forget. First, we cannot underestimate how important services enabled by the internet are for people's lives. So important that when access is taken away, people are willing to take to the streets to get it back. The internet is no longer optional infrastructure. It is essential to people's lives, to their ability to connect with family and their right to expression. These tools are integrated into every aspect of their lives and livelihoods. Second, the internet is under threat. Many governments in this region and beyond want to and do restrict access to the internet or to the services it enables. Some claim it's for security, some claim it's for stability, some argue it's for protecting citizens. But whatever the stated reason, these shutdowns and restrictions deny people their fundamental abilities to connect, communicate, and innovate. Third, we cannot be complacent. We are the internet community, and we are best placed to defend the internet. Events like this one, conversations like the ones you'll have over the coming days, this is where we assert the internet we want. This is where we build the coalitions to protect and promote an open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy internet for everyone in the Asia-Pacific region. This is why the APrIGF exists. This is why over 180 national and regional IGFs now provide year-round dialogues on internet governance issues. And this is why your participation matters. The Internet Society is committed to supporting the Asia-Pacific region in building the internet you want and deserve. Since 2019, we have invested in projects across over 120 countries globally, including projects totaling almost $9 million across the Asia-Pacific region. We have also been a strong supporter of national and regional internet governance forums across this region and around the world. We have helped create community networks and internet exchange points. We have supported local technical communities and trained thousands of students in digital skills. Through our connectivity co-funding initiative, the Internet Society is committing $30 million over the next 5 years to support locally owned, scalable, and sustainable networks, to build capacity and develop the next generation of internet leaders, and to expand infrastructure that is more affordable and reliable. We are so fortunate to have chapters across the Pacific Islands, Japan, Australia, Indonesia, Hong Kong, the Philippines, India, Nepal, and even more across the region. We have strong partnerships with organizations like APNIC, ICANN, the Asia Pacific Telecommunity, and the ITU's regional office, all working together to strengthen the internet across Asia Pacific. Through local activism and partnerships, we can build a global movement to achieve the internet we want. So let me close with a call to action for everyone participating in this APrIGF. To the stakeholders in Nepal, use this moment. Channel the energy and commitment shown by your people willing to defend their right to internet access. Engage with your government and the platforms on policies that support an open internet rather than restrict it. Build coalitions across stakeholders to assert the internet you want. At the Internet Society, we are here to support your voice in Nepal. To all participants, the work you do here, the conversations you have, the relationships you build, the solutions you develop, this work shapes the future of the internet in the Asia-Pacific region. Don't underestimate your power and your impact. Engage in the WSIS Plus 20 discussions happening right now. Push for outcomes that support multi-stakeholder governance, that renew the mandate of the Internet Governance Forum, and that commit to connecting the remaining billions of people who remain offline. Finally, hold on to the vision of an internet that is affordable, accessible, and available in all languages. An internet that is reliable and resilient. An internet that is safe, secure, and governed through multi-stakeholder collaboration. This is an internet that is a force for good in our society. This is the internet for everyone. And everyone, including all of you, has a role in making that vision a reality. Thank you for your commitment to this work. Thank you for ensuring that the Asia-Pacific region has a strong voice in shaping the internet's future. And thank you for including me in this important conversation. I look forward to working with all of you to ensure that the internet truly is for everyone.
Well, very, very thanks to Sally. Yeah, well taken and well noted. Thanks, Sally. So the presence in APrIGF has never been less worthy, but this year is very special. Why? We heard it from Sally right now. On the same note, I'd like to inform that we have a opening plenary right after this session in 5 minutes on platform governance in Asia Pacific. That should be very timely. So before, without losing much time, I'd like to now ask for remarks from Ashirwad Tripathy. He's from Internet Society Nepal chapter and representing host steering committee. Ashirwad, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ghimire. Madam Chair Amrita Choudhury, Edmon, Shita, former Minister Sumana, Shrestha, and Samuel, and everybody here participating in this opening ceremony. Welcome to APrIGF and greetings from Nepal. I'm Ashirwad Tripathy, as Dr. Ghimire has already informed. While I'm the Vice Chair of APrIGF, I'm also part of host team, and it would have been an honor to host you in person in Nepal. Nevertheless, I'm very happy to see you participate in APrIGF 2025 virtually. We're gathered here with a clear objective to transform internet into a global infrastructure that serves public good. The internet has transcended its role as a mere tool or technology, from that becoming a catalyst for emergence and sustenance of newer tools and technology, such as artificial intelligence, which heralds a new era of digital society. While the internet presents unprecedented opportunity, it also faces evolving challenges, particularly in area of inclusion, security and trust, and sustainability. It is not a novel concept that the internet now permeates the very fabric of society. Consequently, it's imperative that we engage in discussions about a resilient digital civilization, where the internet is seamlessly integrated into education, the economy, well-being, culture, and of course, human rights in the digital realm. Having access to reliable internet now entails gaining access to the digital economy, improved healthcare, convenient travel, and a platform for exercising freedom of expression. This year's theme, the future of multi-stakeholder governance in digital in Asia Pacific, is very timely considering the world situation right now, especially with what happened on Gen Z protests in Nepal that toppled the government, powerful government, within 2 days. So in one way, it did give us the right to express, but what followed showed the world being PUBG-fied. So now, not just social media, but gaming platforms have a deep-rooted impact on our children as well. So the balance is always needed, and we have to make sure that it's for the good. That being said, thank you so much for your presence. It's sad that I cannot host you, but I'm sure this APrIGF will be equally good. Please participate and look forward for very fruitful discussion and very productive outcome of this process. Back to you, Dr. Ghimire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashirwad. That was very, very timely. We have now negative time running on. We have come to close to the opening remark session. Now, I would like to provide a platform to Yasmin Bhattrai for the next moderated panelist. But before that, in between the transition, I'd like to ask Rani to play a video opening by IGF, Maria Ressa. So over to you, Yasmin, immediately after the video.
woman, LGBTQ+, if you are Black, brown, or an ethnic minority, you are further marginalized online. If you were marginalized in the old world, you're marginalized even more in the virtual world. Digital inclusion, it's about representation. Anyone who is part of our global landscape should have their voices heard. But here's the hard part. That should be pulled together in a meaningful way so that we can rise with the pace of technological change. Algorithmic bias is a choice of the big tech companies. What they realized was that if you're angry, you keep scrolling. Social media, which is the way information now spreads through society, uses an incentive structure that rewards the worst of who we are. If you hack the way we feel, it changes the way we see the world, changes the way we act, changes the way we vote. We have outsourced our public information ecosystem to private companies who are driving it for profit, and that needs to be reclaimed. There isn't a government body globally that actually legislates the internet right now. The Internet Governance Forum played a crucial role in doing that, except the world has gotten more complex. I do come out of IGF meetings extremely inspired by the many voices that are there. It is a place where governments sit with civil society, with tech companies all around the world. And part of the reason I joined is because I wanted to be able to see how we can have that inclusive dialogue and at the same time be a catalyst for change for the better, to restore the rights that have been taken away from us. Given the extreme pace of how the technology is rolled out and the power that it has to hack our biology, to insidiously manipulate us, we need safety measures in place. The last time the world went through something like this that changed the world was labor, factories of production. And it took years before you had laws against sweatshops, laws against child labor. Now we need those types of laws to protect our children, to protect the vulnerable against insidious manipulation. I think there's no other time that we felt the need for the United Nations and the Internet Governance Forum even more than today. But like anything, both these institutions are going to have to adapt, to take stock of the wind, and then bring people together to find solutions. Getting together to talk is not the goal. Getting together to act, that's what will succeed.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session on platform governance in Asia Pacific. I'm Yasmin Bhattrai, a cybersecurity and data privacy expert working in the corporate sector in Nepal. As different governments and private sectors across this region embrace digital transformation, we have critical questions about how governance, privacy, security, cross-border data flows, and inclusivity work in this area. How do we balance regulation with innovation? How do different policies across these region ensure trust, equity, accountability? As many others have already mentioned, one of the recent examples in Nepal was the Gen Z protest that erupted after the then government announced a ban on social media platforms that refused to register locally. While the government at that time framed this move as a step towards accountability and compliance, citizens, especially the youth of Nepal, Gen Z youth of Nepal, viewed it as an infringement on their digital freedom and rights to expression. This example captures a broader challenge across the region. How do governments regulate digital platforms to promote transparency and security? without undermining fundamental rights or stifling participation online. Today's discussion brings together stakeholders from across different sectors who will share their insights on how Asia-Pacific can shape its digital future, one that remains secure and inclusive. Let me quickly introduce you to the panelists we have for today's discussion. We have Shita Laksmi, who is a supervisory board of the Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network, SAFEnet. She was the executive director of the TIFA Foundation from 2019 to 2022. Between 2017 and mid-2019, she served as an expert team member at the Indonesian Ministry of Communication and Informatics, while also managing the Diplo Foundation's program in Asia. She was a member of the MAG-IGF from 2014 to 2017 and has over 25 years of experience primarily in the development sector. Next, we have Firdaus Al-Motakin. He is Head of Public Policy and Government Relations, South Asia at TikTok. He leads engagement with governments, civil society, and partners across regions to advance TikTok's mission to inspire creativity and bring joy, with a focus on digital safety, inclusion, and creative opportunity. Firdaus is an ICT and public policy veteran with 20 years of experience. Next, we have Wathshlah Naidu, who is a gender and human rights advocate with 20 years of experience, having worked globally and nationally with UN agencies and other human rights NGOs, specifically dealing with law and policy reform and advocacy. She is currently the executive director of the Center for Independent Journalism, a Malaysian civil society organization that focuses on information justice and the intersections between freedom of expression, promoting media freedom, digital rights, and the right to information. Next, we have Sumana Shrestha, who is a Nepalese politician and former Minister of Education, Science and Technology. She was elected member of the Federal Parliament in the House of Representatives and was a member of the Education, Health and Information Technology Committee of the House of Representatives. A graduate of MIT Sloan School of Management, she has worked with Citigroup and Boston Consulting Group before returning to Nepal to lead civic initiatives such as Carpool Nepal and Medication for Nepal in the past. She is known for promoting data-driven governance, transparency, and inclusive leadership in Nepal's public sector. Our final panelist for the session today is Jaco Toit, who is UNESCO's representative to Nepal. He has an extensive background in universal access to information, ICT in education, science, and culture, with experience spanning Africa and beyond. Jaco has led global efforts to promote access to information, media development, and inclusive knowledge societies. His work focuses on ensuring that digital transformation remains inclusive, equitable, and firmly grounded in human rights principles. Now, with this introduction to our panelists and with the background of the video that was played earlier by Marisa Ressa, I would like to ask each panelist to give their take on the video on digital trust and inclusion. We can start with the speakers we see in the format in the display, with starting from Sumana Shrestha. You have 3 minutes each to just take us through what you think of the issues raised in the video.
Hello, namaste, and good morning. Thank you very much. I was really hoping to have a physical conference on this in Nepal. Unfortunately, as the things have unfolded, we've moved to virtual session. But thank you, Ashirwad, and rest of the organizing team for conducting this very seamless program. I hope at some point we can have this in Nepal. As the MPs who were in conversation about this program were very excited and interested in this one. Regarding the video, I think it's very important that we all recognize the importance of making the virtual space inclusive. And when it comes to Nepal or other countries that have yet another layer of societal discrimination or bias. For example, casteism or geographical location where you're born within Nepal also matters quite a bit. There are a lot of dimensions that actually needs to be thought of to make the digital space inclusive. However, I believe that while that needs to run in parallel with yet another requirement for countries like us, where similar to what the Industrial Revolution did and what I believe still happens now, a negotiation between labor and management's decision to have automation to reduce cost. A similar conversation needs to happen in countries, across different across different dimensions of our relationships as we exist. Is what is the balance between digitization, the way to introduce digitization, and how we go about educating people on how to exist in the virtual world. This is one of the things I believe at least Nepal's school education have missed out, or society have missed out. We have just existed. There has been technology that has been imported, introduced, that comes with a lot of merits, that has reduced a lot of cost of doing business, staying connected. It has produced a lot of positive externalities. Yet at the same time, it's a classic case of public good where people are not enough stepping up to take care of the negative externalities that the technology is producing as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Sumana. Let's move on to Shita to give her feedback.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm living next to the mosque, so you can hear azan near my house. So first of all, thank you, and honor to be part of the panel and part of the APrIGF. I always attended APrIGF since 2017, so it's a very good place to see an old friends of mine. Regarding the video, I have a comment. I think there were times of the internet when I called the good old days, maybe similarities with the internet we want that Cerf were sharing earlier. It is when the internet was the avenue to show people's powers, to demand transparency for accountability towards government, and to give medium for marginalized communities to be heard and counted. In the late 2000s, maybe around 2010, 2011, there were many good initiatives celebrating the power of the internet. The decentralization's power, a place where people are relatively equal. For example, in an initiative like Open Government Partnership, which the marking of open data and the strategic use of open data. Hackathons involving technical communities to solve complex problems in the service deliveries. Therefore, there were times when the internet helped democracy to thrive. I think was mentioned by Edmon and Sally before, Nepal is also an example that the internet has a role in protecting democracy. But the recent growth of technology indeed amplified the divides. I agree with Maria that the current growth of high concentration of power in several companies can make vulnerable groups become more vulnerable. We have witnessed technology can disrupt information integrity in the elections and even democracy. Romania, for example, has to rerun its elections because of the amplified disinformation to platforms. As we have experienced, we know that internet governance is a multi-stakeholder avenue. Internet will not be interoperable without protocols, as Sally also mentions in her keynote speech. Therefore, a forum like this, to have a dialogue, then actions between stakeholders is very important to bring back the good old days. Thank you. I'll give it back to you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Shita. Let's move on to Wathshlah for her views.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really an honor to connect at this plenary. I think listening to what Maria has said, not just her video, but all her other previous statements and the previous speakers and what they have said. I think what is really, really critical and what really resonates with me is that trust is really not just about a byproduct of technology. It's really deliberate. We're looking at a social contract where we must build trust through accountability and truth, right? One other thing that we are all reminded now is that digital platforms are really designed for engagement and profit. They have a clear business model. Thus, any design flaw that we see that has potentially weakened our public trust, and also as what Sumana said earlier, has polarized our society and widened our digital divide and increased the risk for the users, would require systemic changes. So it's time for us really to think about how do we frame any change for policy reforms or civil society action as systemic. It's not just about the bad actors, it's really about the design. How do we shift then the attention from content takedown, but towards platform design, economic incentive, to legal safeguards, and most importantly, how are we looking at public resilience? So for those of us in Malaysia and also across Southeast Asia, that means moving away from what we are seeing increasingly an attempt to restrict our internet spaces to demanding more structural accountability. That means we need clearer rules for data protection. We need better systems in place to ensure algorithmic transparency and fair treatment for all netizens and users. And then another very interesting takeaway from me from Maria's message is that the inclusion is really more than access. It's about how do we put the people at the center. It's about safety of the users, safety of the people, safety of the communities at risk, including indigenous communities, women, LGBT communities. It's really about agency too. So we need to ensure that voices are really not drowned out. People are not harassed online or manipulated by algorithms that often favor power and a profit. It's also, I think, her last statement was really interesting because it was about call to courage and a call to action. So it is about building digital trust, and it's about reclaiming our space and getting people together to act. I think that's a really critical point, an important takeaway for me.
Thank you, Wathshlah. We move on to the final panelist, Jaco.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to the organizers for this great opportunity. Maria Ressa's message is definitely a powerful message about digital trust, as the previous speaker also highlighted. And that means it's not simply about technical issues, but the society. And when we talk about the society, it means that we have rights. These rights, the human rights, are important to make sure that we can exist in our societies and that we could exist and exercise rights within the digital space. Now, I think we've seen this nexus in Asia-Pacific region where Bangladesh and Philippines, Nepal, all of them, young people felt excluded in our society. And they then went to the digital space that was also limited. And so that is, I think, what we need to see. How can we give excluded populations, like Maria mentioned, an opportunity to voice their concerns, to be creative, to reflect their identity, and to make sure that it is a reality for each one of them. That means it's not just about access, it's about agency, assuring that excluded communities can participate meaningful in a safe online space. And I think when we talk about a safe online space, we've seen also in recent development how misinformation, online harassment, and exclusion all these elements have been part of our societies. And we say we have to make it a safe space. But I would call for an action that when we work towards the safe space, we co-create this with those communities that feel excluded. We cannot do it for them. I think they have to be part of this process as the rest of the population, and it is important that they feel empowered through these interactions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaco. Now on to Firdaus, who I missed earlier. He's from the platform TikTok and can provide us his view on this.
Thank you, Yasmin. And thank you very much, everyone, for giving us this opportunity to participate and speak at this event. I think this is very important component, and this is a very important time for us to reflect on this critical topic of inclusivity, safety, as well as accountability. Inclusion, as we believe, it doesn't happen by accident. We have to build it, protect it, and we also have to measure it. This is the fundamentals of how platforms like TikTok does really get ourselves included. Maria's his message is very strong and very powerful in terms of reflecting on the global phenomena as we currently stand. There is a saying that if you are connected, you are vulnerable, but if you are disconnected, you are irrelevant. Now, how can we be connected but also be protected? This is where global platforms like us takes a very, very proactive roles. And we believe that inclusivity should be part of the entire design ecosystem of the product journey. We also take safety of our user very seriously, and we wanted to ensure that every user, whoever the backgrounds are, wherever they are from, their rights are protected, their voice are heard, and inclusivity is ensured. We are very much in line with what Maria has outlined and shared her concern around different areas where possible challenges may occur in the internet domain. And as a global platform like TikTok, we work really hard to ensure that those are taken care, those are included into our product design, and we work collaboratively with our wider stakeholder to deliver the best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for those. These were all very good insights, and few things that jumped out to me was how trust was deliberate, and how do we ensure that we take this into account when we build algorithms, when we ensure all the different vulnerable groups are catered to and included in the use of the platform. At the same time, educating the users on, as Sumana mentioned, how to exist in this world. That has been an interesting discussion in these last few years. Now, we move on to the next round of questions. I would like to start with Ms. Sumana Shrestha. How do you envision government should address challenges of balancing individual protection and freedom of expression on the digital platform? Even in Nepal, just to add, even in Nepal, if we look at the cases that were registered with our Cyber Bureau in the last year, around 94% of the cases were the channel used were digital platform, various digital platforms. So what do you think about this?
Well, let's maybe start by separating digital from social media. Right, digital would also include your website and everything. It has increased a lot of access to government services, which is a great part. But when it comes to social media uses, there has been a lot of cases filed, and it's increasing, I believe, exponentially when it comes to harassment, bullying, scamming, online scams. If you look at Twitter, a very prominent person's account got hacked, and it's being used to scam people. So I believe there has to be a clear definition of what social media is, the space in which it exists, because without that level of clarity, there is a risk of overusing laws to unvisual freedom of expression and existence. So this is the first part. Second is there needs to be multiple laws that needs to be introduced in sync with each other. One related to data security. So platforms like TikTok or Facebook, what kind of information they collect, who do they give access to, and whatnot. Then there has to be a very clear law around protecting minors in social media space. So most of the time when I've spoken to platform owners or their representatives, it's always been, what do you want? Well, I think there has to be an innovation on how to achieve these outcomes and when we will get to the desired outcomes. But most of the times it goes to, well, we can't do it. You have to give us access to your NID or national ID. You have to give us access to a lot of other stuff. So there's most of the times I see the conversation happening along basically postponing or making the problem so impossible to tackle that it can't be done. But innovation mostly comes before your regulation. So if there are problems, I think there has to be a co-ownership of making sure the problem gets tackled. The government might not know exactly how to tackle, exactly what details to ask. That's an area where partnership is really required. Second is, like I mentioned before as well, there has been not enough from the government side, from the civil side, or from the platform owners on how to exist in the space. And the turnaround time for reporting when somebody reports social media harassment, that it takes quite a while, even when I report. For example, I believe UN was doing one of its sessions on, as a woman in political space, what kind of harassment do I face? I face quite a bit. But when I report, those things take quite a bit of time for turning things around, right? So it's also about defining what harassment, what bullying is in the context that the person is interacting and existing. So these things need to be taken care of while making sure none of the platforms are oversharing with the government that risks individual safety, whether it's online or physical safety, right? The laws in Nepal are very strict. If somebody files a case against cyber bullying, cyber whatever in space, the government can basically arrest for 30 days, for 28 days, 28 days for investigation. And so when you have laws that are very strict, I think the platform owners also need to be very careful if they are oversharing information that basically curtails the dissenting voice. And dissenting voices are what makes democracy work. So there are multiple dimensions along which the government needs to work together with the platform, civil society, and with the education system, private or government run schools to really talk about what does it mean to exist in cyberspace. What does it like? How does grooming happen? How does scamming happen? There is very little effort to take care of the, like I mentioned before, the negative externalities that's being introduced in the society. And there is very little, I believe, effort put in, as I see it, from the platform side on how to take care of fake accounts. We talked about the September 8th Emcee protest quite a bit. There was recently a front page cover that 34% of a lot of videos, a lot of things were pushed out by fake accounts to create a sense of safety when it was not. So that basically is very concerning, and that requires a very close partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumana. I think one of the points that jumped out to me was how sometimes government might not know what are the right questions to ask, and partnerships between all these different stakeholders, platform providers, government, civil society, education systems are so important to understand how to tackle these different issues. I would like to go to Firdaus. Recognizing the diversity in the APAC region, such as the different geopolitical variations between different economies, how do platforms handle these different issues of the different countries and make sure it is safe and the contents are moderated as required by the different areas?
Thank you, Yasmina. Global platform operates on some global foundations and fundamentals. In our case, we call it community guidelines. We look at what are the global community guidelines are and how those global community guidelines are trickled down in the local level. Lean to local is something that we look at. We look at how some of those processes and policies are tailored toward local norms, local culture, legal ecosystem, and we do the content moderations based on those principles. However, user safety, user privacy, these are one of the priority into our overall operations in wider geographies. Asia Pacific, as you know, is very diverse. It has almost everything, from a very developing economy to developed. We have very limited internet penetration to the highest internet penetration. So we have every varieties in Asia Pacific region. So therefore, the user journey, users' maturity, interaction with social media and digital platform does happen in various different ways and forms across Asia Pacific. And therefore, our responsibility is to make sure that we operate based on the characteristics of each of the geographies. For example, our approach in terms of user interaction, user journey, user education in places like Singapore is different than places like Laos. As because these two countries has two different sort of maturity of digital adaptation. However, when it comes on privacy, safety of the user, their protection, and reducing the internet vulnerability, the standard that we set are all equal. We always endeavor and put up the best to ensure that our platform and our user is safe. There are a lot of questions and concerns around data privacies, data sovereignties, user education, user behavior, fake account, disinformation. As a global platform, we all are aware. And it is of our daily activities, it is of our daily mission to ensure that each of these topics are taken care of. I lead across South Asia, and we have, even in South Asia, we have seen how diverse the users are, how diverse the way that the user interacts with digital ecosystem, not just in individual social media platform. We talked about scamming, so we talked about cyberbullying, harassment, we talked about protection of our minors, we talked about empowering our different groups and ethnicities. And now the challenge that comes in internet space, in one side, we envision to provide inclusivity, but on the other side, we also want to ensure that everyone's right is well protected. This is a very, very critical and complex activities. Digital platforms or internet platforms like us works every day to ensure that these two phenomena are well balanced. We work collaboratively with our wider ecosystem. We work with industry experts. We bring safety by design methods. And we also hear the voice of our wider audiences. We have multiple ways of doing so. One is we have community channel partners. These partners are individual entities. These entities provide us a feedback on what is required. We also have industry level experts that are part of our Safety Advisory Council that constitutes from the wider Asia Pacific zone. These advisory council members provide us insight on what are the things that needs to be fine-tuned for whichever geography and whichever countries. And of course, we have a very wider moderation capacity and teams that speaks in local language, that understand the local norms, and ever increasing capacity enhancement in our side. But all also have to be in line with the legislation and the legal framework of a country. And we have also witnessed that some of the legislative framework in many of the countries in Asia Pacific are extremely constrained and restrictive. It is also very difficult for a global platform like ours to operate of this varied regulatory ecosystem, but ensuring that users are protected within the compliance framework that the government has been set. So it is our combined effort that has to come forward, whether you are a regulator, whether you are a policymakers, politicians, or a civil society activist, or a lawyer, or a tech platform representative. We all have to act together to ensure that we bring the best for our user, and our user is a citizen of this world, and we're committed for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those. It's good to hear TikTok is working so hard to ensure
Yes,
safety.
sorry, apologies. We will have to wind up the session because our next session is due.
Okay, sure. Let's move on to Ms. Shita for a quick. I'm sorry. Shita, what measures are needed to ensure equitable access to digital platforms for rural and underrepresented communities? If you can give us a short view.
Okay, thank you. A very short one. So two options that I think maybe too ideal, but maybe can also be think about is the remember universal service obligations back then in the era of telephony. I think though the implementation of USO is not perfect, but I think it's sufficient to push the obligations to the government and telco provider in this sense is platform governance to also cross subsidies. Yeah, a company that provides internet in the low revenue market while also getting profit in the high value market. So I think USO is one of the approach. The second thing I would like to discuss is about the intermediary. Intermediary meaning people intermediary. I think we in Indonesia, because we have a very diverse country, we have what we call community health workers, which is working in coordination with the health center. These community health workers working very effectively, and they can help to decrease the maternal mortality rate, maternity mortality rate. So I think it's very important to have, because they come to the pregnant mothers, they also help the pregnant mothers to take vitamins, to remind them on how to go to the doctors. So I think these intermediaries can also help for the marginalized communities to have more understanding on the platforms and how to navigate between maintaining their rights as humans, but also make the platform to be well used for them. I think that would be my very short. I hope that's
Thank you.
sufficient.
On to Jaco for his very short view on how, as digital platforms evolve, what policies or norms should be prioritized to ensure a safe, sustainable internet for all.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Yasmin, I'm jumping in. Rani, could you check with the timing? I mean, are you sure we have only few minutes remaining?
We have 20 minutes more, so please continue with the plenary. Sorry for that just now.
Looks like there is some confusion. The time zone conversion. Amrita is taking, I mean, maybe considering some other time zone. So please don't get hurried. We have time.
Okay, then Shita, would you like to add more since we have some time, or?
Well, maybe a bit that we have this in Indonesia. We have this Relawan TIK, ICT volunteers that spread around Indonesia, and they are independent, but also in coordination with the Ministry of Digital and Communications. So I think in terms of intermediate, the second options that I can offer is that the platform can work together with them to make sure that the regulations and how to maximize the use of the platform can be really useful for the marginalized people. Maybe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shita. On to Jaco. Again, let me repeat the question. As digital platforms evolve, what policies or norms should be prioritized to ensure a safe, sustainable internet for all?
Thank you very much. Just in this regard, I think it is important that there are policies in place. These policies are principled. I'll provide maybe 5 ideas of some of these principles, and context sensitive. I think TikTok mentioned already the importance of context sensitivity when it comes to these policies. If we look at some of the principles, I think, of course, human rights, I mentioned already the importance of freedoms that relate to access to information, freedom of expression, privacy that need to be embedded in these policies and need to be part and parcel of these policies. Now, UNESCO has guidelines in order to help member states in order to do this. As an example, we are currently working in Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka on localizing these guidelines also to the context of these 3 countries, making sure that freedom of expression, access to information, and privacy are fully upheld, and that in the process of I think also elaborating these guidelines, that the different stakeholders are fully involved in this process. A second element I think that is important is, of course, youth engagement and the digital literacy skills that go with it. Young people are digital users, agents of change, but I think as technology evolves, so much new skills are necessary in order to navigate and to contribute to new information. And for this, these skills are important. But let's put young people at the center of this whole endeavor. Thirdly, I want to highlight the importance of data sovereignty and cross-border data flows. Data sovereignty comes more and more into the discussions about the internet and internet governance. Cross-border data flows is another element that we need to look at. I think there are some interesting work being carried out at the regional level from ASEAN on contractual clauses for cross-border data transfers, but also at national level. I think there are interesting ways. I think Bangladesh, for example, is looking at data protection. So how do these different initiatives adhere to the human rights approaches, but also optimize data flows? My fourth element that I want to highlight is multi-stakeholder governance. I think a lot has been said about the involvement of the different parties. More so, I think we in multi-stakeholderism, we talked a lot about civil society and government, but the private sector has a role to play, has to sit around the table. And we've seen also where this has happened and has also yielded important results. And lastly, importantly, the inclusiveness of platform design and accessibility. It should be human-centered, so that different communities, including those with low connectivity and people living with disabilities, can make use of these platforms and feel at ease in order to express themselves and be part of our society. Those are the 5 norms or the 5 principles, I think, that UNESCO promotes through its guidelines. Of course, they have to be localized and put in context within the context of each country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaco. Wathshlah, over to you. How can stakeholders collaboratively address misinformation, data privacy, and content moderation challenges on platforms without compromising freedom of speech? Very short time, please wrap up as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this question sits at the heart of platform accountability. As what Jaco, a fellow Malaysian feminist digital rights activist, always say, the internet is not just a tool. It's really a political space where power is negotiated and rights are contested. So the previous speakers have definitely raised very critical, important, human-centric risk as well as action. So if we are looking at the role of stakeholder collaboration, for example, in addressing these challenges, we must really go beyond, coordination. It's really about reimagining and rebalancing power between the different stakeholders. So it's not just the government, big tech corporation, but really the people who use the space every day. We must also have clarity in terms of roles, transparency and actions, agency and voice. Because very often, when we look at means of addressing human rights and addressing fundamental freedom of expression, we often forget that collaboration starts with shared principles. And of course, shared principles are also critical, but it must be examined in the light of today's unequal power dynamics and increasingly limited safe space for engagement. This translates both online and offline as well. So as we enter these spaces for discussion, collaboration, engagement, we must always ensure that the risk is real and any action doesn't become tokenistic. So every time we are in these spaces, transparency, due process cannot just be abstract values. They must be enforceable rights. We are looking at many countries that's moving towards legal action with the intention of protecting the space, internet space, ensuring that people are protected from spam, fraud, other forms of online harm. But at the same time, these legislative measures actually create another risk, which is a risk to our fundamental freedom of expression. Because when users fear surveillance, the potential for data leaks, what happens next is we start to looking at self-censorship means of protecting ourselves as well. So we must move towards very strong data protection, very strong algorithmic transparency mechanisms that are critical to keep our online spaces safe. So collaboration then in this sense must include things like independent oversight, and civil society must also retain the ability to challenge power, not just about being consulted, but really about having a say in the decision. And I want to raise another point about when we talk about collaboration, multi-stakeholder engagement as also means of protecting our freedom of expression, it really must go, beyond looking at mere accountability or transparency, but really accountability for impact. It is not just important for platforms, for example, just produce the transparency report, have measures to ensure transparencies. We need mechanisms then to trace how these decisions actually affect public discourse, how are marginalized or voices of community at risk are centered in the discussion. I think many experts, including Maria, Ressa, Jaco, have always argued that collaboration or engagement in protecting freedom of expression must be relational. It must be grounded in care and redistribution of power. In other words, when we are looking at measures and means of protecting our freedom of expression, collaboration cannot be neutral when the environment itself can be unequal. So we must interrogate then who defines these spaces, who defines and reinforces standards and measures. And final question is who really benefits. So if any well-intentional framework can risk reinforcing existing hierarchies if we don't interrogate this. So I think spaces like the APrIGF, where all different actors come into play, it's also a means of shifting mere collaboration from coordination to looking at co-governance, and thus ensuring that the power, the courage, the agency, the voice reflects into real civic participation and leading towards accountability and upholding our fundamental rights.
Thank you, Wathshlah. Let me quickly jump to Q&A. There are two questions. The first is because it's specified to Jaco, I'll go with that first. UNESCO is helping digitalize indigenous and marginalized languages. Shouldn't UNESCO work with internet governance bodies to enhance digital literacy initiatives, to enhance capacity of such communities so that they can interact with digital domain meaningfully and participate in preserving their linguistic identity? Very quickly, please, Jaco.
Yes, UNESCO does work with the international community with specific guidelines that are put forward so that people from multiple linguistic communities can also have the necessary digital skills and, very importantly, content in order to be trained and to be informed. For this, open licensing educational resources are being used so that they're easily adaptable and adjustable to different communities' needs. More than happy to engage more on this topic. That's very close to my heart. Thanks.
Thank you. Final question, and then we'll wrap up. Anyone can take this question. One thing we're seeing in many countries is that the parties selected are often supported by large platforms, so will not regulate at all to ensure some minimum levels of safety. Any thoughts? And tagging on to that, there's another question about most of the tech giants being from Western world and manipulating users' data from APAC region to help the Western world. So, from the Western world. So what do you think about this and what can we do about this? Anybody?
I think I would like to answer Jeremy's questions, if I may. Yasmin?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think one of the key issues is the data protection framework, the personal data protection framework. I think with the growth of AI, it's also being more difficult for Asia-Pacific countries because we are very diverse to govern the AI growth as well as the data. But I think one of the key issues that we can really sustain ourselves in this data giants and manipulating of our data in the tech platform is to really implement well the data protection framework, the personal data protection framework. It may not be still be a long way to go, But I think if we can have, I think ASEAN is trying to have this personal data protection framework for ASEAN, and maybe can be implemented well. So if we can have a bit of power like the EU, maybe we can have better negotiations with the big tech platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Shita. If anybody wants to close off, actually, all of the panelists, if you want to close off, 30 seconds each. We don't have longer. If you're already done, then that's okay.
From UNESCO, just very quickly, I think immense opportunities exist if a principled approach is being used. There's the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of different technologies, and I think these tools need to be used. It's one example. Others exist already, and I think the tools that different platforms and actors put together are important instruments that need to be developed and localized. Let's learn from each other and make use of those existing guidelines. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaco. Thank you, all of the panelists. We have heard very insightful discussions about what are the issues and how maybe some of those can be tackled. We've also heard we need a lot of partnership between different regions, different stakeholders, to ensure that we have open, equitable access for all of the communities in the region. Some countries are quite mature, some are yet to get there, and we need to have balanced protections and at the same time ensure freedom of expression for all of our citizens across this region. We also need to ensure that the citizens themselves are aware of what they're doing and how they should use these platforms for the better, I think I'm getting stuck. For these platforms provide us a good way to use, but we need to understand how to do this. With that, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Bhoj. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Yasmin, and all the esteemed panelists for your insightful discussion this morning. With this, we are come close to the opening session for the day. But before that, we'll take our group photo. Rani, could you facilitate with that, please? That's a part of our tradition.
All right, give me a second, and everybody smile, the panelists and moderators. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Great. And last one more time. 1, 2, 3. Give me a second. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And one more. Sorry, my bad. If you can have one more, it's better. Yes. Sure. 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody. Thank you.
So thanks a lot for keeping in time. We have 1 more minute. That means we have completed time, everything on time. So after our pause, hardly of 1 minute, we'll come back with the next session. I think that is a breakout session, right, Nani? We have now parallel sessions.
Yep, there'll be sessions coming up at 05:45 UTC. There are 2 sessions happening after this, so please head on to the track 1 and track 2 accordingly.
Great. See you in a while.